Good morning and welcome to the newspaper review segment here on TVC Breakfast. It's Thursday. My name is Nelson Etta, but I'm not alone as usual. My wonderful co is with me this morning. Good morning, Olamide.
Good morning, Nelson. We saw some stories yesterday, making the headlines towards the later part of the day. We saw an increase in the budget that was to be passed, and we also saw another interesting story, which was, this Akwa Ibom professor who was jailed for election fraud. I mean, at that point, I thought Nelson was from there or something.
My God, how did you find a way
to tag you to that?
I
mean, this shows that no one wants to be attached to, something like that.
Never at all. Even the persons who probably had him, doing that, he was affronted to. And again, that's part of what I looked at. I thought, he rigged an election for some persons, right? So where are they?
Oh, well, I think they are just looking at just one side.
He contesting for that.
Okay, so according to the story, he was a returning officer at a particular, unit for a person. And so he was prosecuted by INEC for perjury. I think he, lied about he falsified some figures.
Exactly, for presenting wrong documents.
I wonder why you keep going back to for a particular person. I think that's where you come in, probably to make this investigation.
He falsified the figures in favor of some persons, isn't it?
Well, in court or allegedly, the person who he falsified these figures for has disowned him and said he did not do this. I mean, you should be sure that you're working for someone that can defend you.
And all other persons who prosecuted the man shouldn't only... And I'm not saying, of course, he doesn't deserve to be prosecuted. Of course, he's gotten his day. But I'm saying, let's expand the net of prosecution to not just him who executed the plans of a team. That's what I'm trying to say. But let's quickly move on to the Nation newspaper. This morning we are considering the economy. Bagudu, why Tinubu raised budget 2025 by 4.52 trillion. This looks good on the outside. I'm hoping that this would be shared across board to the different ministries that truly deserve this money. At the top nameplate of the Nation right there, Tinubu to hold talks with French leader Macron in Paris. It seems to me that something good is in the offing in these meetings.
Right.
Again, this is at the Senate case, sack of Abia Adamawa Sokoto Rex. Another issue there on electoral conversation. And Oando distributes 1.28 billion shares to stakeholders. All right, I think that would be it for the Nation.
Right, and the Punch newspaper is also, reporting this story about the increase in the budget, which is 54 trillion naira budget. Experts divided over this raise. The federal government adds 4.5 trillion naira Greek infrastructure funds. President submits reviewed budgets. MTF to NASA. Federal government votes more funds for the BOI. Well, another interesting story here says, that's on the top of the newspaper. Secession. Nigeria did not learn from the civil war, says Dogara. I'm wondering what he means by that, that statement.
Yes, because there are a lot of issues that was the cause for that then. We're still seeing
some of that.
Probably that's why he's saying so.
That's why he's saying so. Anyways, another story here says this highway tolling. There is a whole lot of reactions to this. Is saying that transporters, NLC chapters, TUC reject highway tolling. That's still on at the top of the Punch newspaper. This, according to a report yesterday, we saw that there was a whole lot of long queues trying to get some of these fees, and so I think that is another source of concern. How fast movement will be while they're trying to get this fee. But I think they can't take a cue from Lagos State. We have a lot of toll gates where it doesn't necessarily, cause traffic.
Yeah.
But that's it on the Punch newspaper this morning.
All right, let's quickly run to the New Telegraph, which is our next paper to consider. Olamide, there's something right here I'd like you to see at the top nameplate of the New Telegraph.
Right.
Obasanjo, Sultan, can others advocate religious tolerance for Nigeria's unity? We cannot but stay unified as a nation. And so that's a good call for all of us to heed. Drama in Senate as Ned Nwoko officially leaves the PDP for the APC. 2027 is playing under the carpet right here, y'all. Okay. Release Nnamdi Kanu to facilitate Southeast development. Reps.
Tell Tinubu.
Tell Tinubu. Okay.
An interesting one here says,
right.
they say they should make it a condolence visit to Indigo on Nwayawo's death. And that's how they're tagging the visit.
Yeah, on that one. But I'm wondering how Nnamdi Kanu is the one to facilitate Southeast's development. I mean, there are governors, there are senators, there are reps, there are local government chairman. Who exactly is he? Okay. But at the bottom of the New Telegraph right there, we have North Secretary and Secretary, actually. Again, PDP BOT abandons Ayaun, recognizes Ude Okoye as reps probe unauthorized leakage of NIN by telcos. That is where we'll leave it for the New Telegraph.
Right, and you know, this NIN story also leads back to some of the stories that we saw, was it last week, about someone arrested with a whole lot of, you know, NIN, and investigation, of course, is ongoing. But very quickly to the leadership. Confusion trails toll operation on Abuja-Kefi-Makurdi Highway. That's on the leadership newspaper. We've talked about that. And, of course, the budget. Well, another start story here by the right of the newspaper. 17 children die in Zamfara school fire. Nelson, that was a sad incident.
Really sad.
Yesterday in Zamfara.
Really
I guess
sad.
that was an Islamic school. Yeah. And investigation, of course, is still ongoing. But, of course, the Chief of Defense Staff is saying that counterinsurgency requires innovative response. He's, you know, giving out his own, you know.
Innovative response there, that also should include technology, heavily technology, so that we can see where those guys are doing whatever they're doing.
Would you really say that, you know, the Nigerian security forces have not really invested in security in that sense?
Well, I have a lot to say about that, Olamide, but I don't want to open that can. Let's quickly run to the Daily Times.
Right.
This morning, again, something beautiful right here. Petron backs FG's ban on crude exportation. Okay. They are saying, let this thing be within the house, because we have refinery in the country right about now. Well, something to chew right there. And at the top nameplate of the Daily Times, Election Tribunal, INEC tenders 3 documents in defense of Governor Okpebholo. And Speaker Abbas inaugurates committee on SEDC. That would be it for the Daily Times.
And going to the Platform Times, you know, the Platform Times has a lot of, you know, human angle stories here. And on top of that, of course, on the Platform Times, ICPC recovers over 20 billion naira from ghost workers' pension deductions, alleges names of wives, son-in-law inserted. We had, you know, we had a recent call for increase in pensions and also, you know, a whole lot for early this week. And then we see something like this. And this raises, the, you know, the concern that you talked about. Was it on Monday, saying that, you know, they have to ensure that these people that needs the money, that owns the money, actually
gets their money.
It actually gets to them.
The federal government is listening to us, Olamide. Some good news.
Another story here. Tinubu approves 65 years retirement age for doctors, healthcare workers. I mean, there's a whole lot of reaction to that as to whether, you know, looking at the brain drain we see in the health sector, as to whether that will, you know, bring out, you know, positive result. But another story here by the right, I think that's in yellow. Police arrest pupil threatening schoolmate with pistol. We have a student threatening other schoolmates with pistol.
How did
with
he
a parent's pistol, actually, because
well,
I saw that.
Even if it belongs to his, you know, parent, as it were, how did it get into his hands? I mean, did he sneak into his father's room and pick it up? And
I think the child does not know. We're in Nigeria. We're not in London here.
Exactly, right? I mean, that is not even something to be found in the first place, let alone use for a threat.
And then, you know, children most times who say whatever they see, and I can almost be sure, let's make it 80% sure, that the parent actually has a pistol for him to be threatening, or the parent is threatening the child with that pistol. Well, that's it on the platform time.
And the first news is our next paper to consider this morning. Again, issues on politics and the president's raise of health workers age from 60 to 65. But there's something here. ICPC recovers 20 billion ghost pensions, uncovers officials paying family. We just talked about it. So if this money belongs to some persons, it should get to them and not to some other persons. But there's a beautiful picture story right there on the first news, Olamide. We see our president, you know, in handshake with the chairman of ExxonMobil and the out president of ExxonMobil as well, and also the incoming president of ExxonMobil, and the beautiful Adesua Dozie during an audience with the president at the presidential villa. This is talking business right here, Olamide, but that will be it for the first news.
Right, on Nigeria News Direct, Edo debt profile increased by over 900% to 682.57 billion naira under Obaseki. That's the Asset Verification Committee quoting that as aid denies allegations, vows to publish counter evidence. I'm wondering why, you know, this increase was quoted as a percentage, and then the exact figure was given instead of a percentage under the current or the past governor, rather. Another story here, Dangote export 2 cargoes of jet fuel to Saudi Aramco in Saudi Arabia. Well, that's good news for Dangote himself. Yeah. But then El-Rufai's ex-officials dismissed the 423 billion naira corruption allegation as a political witch hunt. We've seen El-Rufai more in the news in the past few days, but of course, like you say, it's almost 2027.
And so all of that is playing out.
We're hearing a lot these days.
Well, the Daily Independent is our next paper to consider, and I'd like to take something from the top of the Daily Independent, at the top nameplate right there. Gandu J says, Tinubu's reforms painful but unavoidable. All right. But then at the right corner of the Daily Independent, we see Neti mounts pressure on Senate for solid minerals sector reforms. About time we get into that so that that sector can be properly regulated and that resources harnessed. Reps urged federal government to declare Ondo coastal communities disaster zones. Why is that? The Daily Independent has all the details, and that will be it for the Daily Independent.
Well, the Blueprint newspaper is sort of, you know, reiterating what we've seen on major newspapers this morning, which is talking about, you know, this PDP scribe war. Ironwood case as beauty adopt to Reki report recognizes Ude Okoye as the National Secretary. And of course, solid minerals, BOA, get increased allocation as Tinubu jacks up 2025 budget to 54.2 trillion naira. That's on the bottom of the Blueprint newspaper. Very quickly, let's go to the right. The right, that will be, we will eliminate political interference, judicial delay in anti-graft war, ICPC chair. That's good that the chairman is reiterating that. But that's it on the Blueprint.
And the Guardian is the next paper with something very concerning right here on security. 5 years on, poor funding capacity, Habu Amotekun's mandate in the Southwest. The idea of having this outfit was to help the Nigerian police to secure the Southwest. And so if, you know, the governors are calling for some kind of funding matters right here, I think it's something to be considered. Tinubu, okay, 65 years retirement age for health workers. We've taken that. But then there's something right here. Federal government eyes diversification, infrastructure, security in 4.53 trillion review of 2025 budget. Good places to allocate money. But that'll be it for The Guardian.
Let's go to this Nigerian newspaper. And the big story here, it says 14.3 million Nigerians are victims of drug abuse. That's NAFDAC saying that. The drug agency cautions youth to shun menace of toxic substance. That's a very, a big one there. It's good that NAFDAC is coming out to mention this. As always, the rate of drug abuse is, increasing at this point. Well, another story here says Senate approves termination of Abia Adamawa Sokoto Rex appointment. But that's it on this Nigeria.
And finally, the Sporting Live is our paper this morning. You wanted to give me a drum roll, right? Okoye's return. This is about 2026 World Cup qualifier. Okoye's return excites Chile. Okay. Hopefully it will excite you to the net, right? And then Desas had 10 offers in January. This is according to agent. And Chile players hold key meeting in England. Maybe they're discussing this. Okoye, we don't come back, so what to bring it to the table. But I mean, that will be it for the newspaper review this morning. Thanks everyone for watching. But that conversation about the child who held the pistol
to threaten, well, he did not hold the pistol. He actually used it to threaten the schoolmates. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to shoot you down. I have a gun in my house. It was in the bag, right? It was at home. It was what he saw. He just threatened. Just said it. Just said it. And that's what I'm saying. This child thinks we're outside the country. We are in Nigeria. I'm sure they will address it.
But that's how much we can take this morning on the newspaper review. It'll be all for us now. Over now to Ibrahim and Veronica for the rest of the show.